Hey everyone, welcome to VR Game Reviews by a VR developer. Today I will be talking about Into the Radius VR, which retails for about $30 on Steam and Oculus and is available exclusively for PC VR. I will be taking an in-depth look at the interactions that developer CM Games have put forward, and how this VR title succeeds and fails to immerse players into the experience. Finally, I will be letting you know if this game is worth adding to your collection. I played Into the Radius on my Oculus Rift S and my Oculus Quest 2 with AirPlay on my development PC with an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080. Into the Radius is best described as a VR survival horror shooter, in which you were tasked with traveling into a hostile Chernobyl-like exclusion zone in order to retrieve artifacts deemed important by your employers at the United Nations Petrovsk Special Committee. Wow, that is a mouthful. You control an unnamed UNPSC specialist, and you are given missions on a computer which involve investigating areas of interest on your map and retrieving items such as film rolls, anomalous objects, and various samples within the exclusion zone. The story in this game takes a back seat, as you have to discover the information about the zone by finding notes and audio files which are left behind or dropped by other UNPSC personnel. You will also receive narrative breadcrumbs by interacting with the statuesque remnants that you will encounter within the zone, and there is a lot to discover about the disastrous Petrovsk event, which turned this once quiet Soviet mining town into an inhospitable wasteland, full of dangerous anomalies and deformed creatures. It's your job to seek out the story in this game, and I personally enjoyed scouring the ruins of a forgotten age and stumbling upon the scattered stories of the survivors. But I can understand why this type of non-linear narrative may be a turnoff for some players. I chose to play and review Into the Radius because I read that it was one of the most immersive VR titles available, and I believe it's up there for me. There is an insane amount of interaction in this game, and a good majority of the tools and items you'll need to utilize within the zone create a very solid foundation for player immersion. The gun mechanics themselves are pretty typical when compared to other VR shooters on the market, but the maintaining and customization aspect of your kit are where this game truly shines. You are responsible for ensuring that your weapons will function well. Cleaning them in between every mission will go farther to ensure your survival, as they can completely jam if they aren't properly maintained. This is the only VR game where I have ever felt the need to hold on to empty clips, as players need to manually reload them, and there are different types of ammo available for different situations. I thought at first it would be tedious to have to manually reload all my clips for my weapons, but it creates a very heavy sense of presence within the game world, especially if you have to reload during a firefight. The combat is pretty tight, and you will primarily utilize firearms, but you'll also have access to knives and grenades for just-in-case scenarios. As for the stealth system, I can't really figure it out, and I have yet to experience a successful stealth encounter. Most enemies see me coming from a mile away, and are already shooting at me before I can pinpoint their location. And on the off chance that I do manage to see an enemy first, they seem to spot me no matter what I do. The game recommends that you crouch and turn off your flashlight, but in my case, that didn't seem to make much of a difference, even at night. Though this could be a problem for some players, I personally prefer a straight fight compared to all this sneaking around. The central mechanic of this game is your backpack, and this inventory system works unlike any other VR game I have seen before. I found myself playing Tetris before each mission, as I wanted to find the most efficient way to pack up my gear before I entered the zone. Every item you pick up in this game has a purpose, and the supplies that you can retrieve on your missions might just save your life in a future excursion, so becoming familiar with the environment and taking the risk to explore different buildings and structures can bring very heavy rewards, or extreme consequences.
You're joking.
This leads to a very base experience, and you will constantly be managing your ammo supply, health items, and food storage. The interactable objects in this game are physics-based and react directly with the game world, and I often found myself setting down my weapons on tables when I was exploring different rooms without thinking about it. This, of course, occasionally backfired on me. Though physics-based objects can often be great for immersion, they still cause issues with our current VR tech, and I found a few issues when trying to pick up objects while playing. Though it never got me killed, it was slightly annoying at times. On the contrary, I found the fact that my weapons could get stuck in door frames to be mildly amusing.
Oh my god, get...
Jumping on that survival part of survival horror, you need to make sure that your character eats regularly and sleeps. If you go too long without food or rest, you will become fatigued, and what begins as a grumbling stomach and decreased stamina can escalate to your character falling unconscious. You can use candy and energy drinks as a quick fix to manage stamina in combat situations, but the best course of action is to make sure that your specialist is well fed and properly rested. The player base features a self-functioning store, and the in-game economy works very well. You're paid in cash for each successful mission, which you can spend on various weapons, upgrades, and supplies. You can also sell items that you find in the zone that are not useful to you. When it comes to the missions themselves, they are simple retrievals, which I have no real complaints about except for the fact that I can only do one mission at a time, and the yield is relatively low for those simple item retrievals. It doesn't feel grindy, but it's teetering on the edge. Other bugs I noticed while playing involved losing my shotgun when transitioning from the base into the zone, as I was holding it when I entered the fog and it seemed to disappear into the ether. Overall, the interactions feel great, and the tactile feedback helps me forget that I have a miniature TV strapped to my face. But I do worry about how this game will function for new users, and I would definitely not recommend this title as anyone's first VR game. Though CM Games is very clear when it states that this game is for VR veterans on the store page, I think that developing for different types of players is an important factor in the success of a VR title. The movement options are locked to physical movement, and anyone prone to motion sickness may find the options for reducing those effects to be pretty limited. The tutorial is a little lacking when it comes to explaining the different actions players can execute within the game, and I found myself Googling a few things that were not stated clearly at the beginning. To test my theory, I had my girlfriend, who is significantly less experienced with VR, play through the beginning sections of the game, and she failed to complete the tutorial. So I would say that the weakest element of Into the Radius lies within its onboarding systems. Those problems aside, Into the Radius is still definitely worth playing. The immersive quality and atmospherics in this game are truly wonderful, and I often found myself lost within the zone as I wandered through the stark environment with nothing to light the way except for my flashlight. The audio systems and dust particles do a lot to create a sense of depth for the game world, which is what I often find lacking with other VR titles. The game is also really scary, and some encounters within the zone made me jump.
That wasn't very nice.
Into the Radius relies on cosmic horror elements, and there are no scripted jump scares. Enemies lurk in locations of interest or wait to ambush you when you're out in the open. This makes the enemy systems feel a lot more dynamic, and by design it becomes a more intense experience. The enemies aren't the most attractive looking monsters, but they seem to be pretty intelligent, and vary depending on where you are inside the zone. Some slowly stalk towards you, others are armed and will engage you with firearms, and my least favorite kinds of abomination are faster and more agile, requiring you to shoot straight and fast. Make sure to bring extra clips and supplies with you as you travel deeper into the zone. Though the art is not the best and the lighting can definitely be flat at times, the game does feature a day-night cycle, and you do not want to be out after dark. It is an entirely different and more terrifying experience. I think that a lot of the issues I have with the overall graphics quality can be forgiven due to the overall scale of the world. I've been playing for over 12 hours now, and I have barely made it out of the starting area. It's mind-blowing how large this map is. The way you go about navigating the zone does a lot to increase immersion as well, as you will need to rely on landmarks and the radius itself in order to effectively traverse the environment. One of the most interesting things I found with the game world is that the zone occasionally resets itself, and you will be notified of this event, which is referred to as the tide, by a beeping alarm on your map. You can also use this device to track the next tide event. I haven't quite figured out how to make sense of it, but I'm just nitpicking at this point. If you hear a noise, you want to run like hell back to the base. Otherwise, you can be teleported to random locations within the zone, which could very well result in your instantaneous death. Though I have barely scratched the surface of what Into the Radius has to offer, I am going to recommend it. I honestly cannot believe that this game is only $30. It has a surprising amount of content, and from what I can tell, the developers are still actively making updates to it. It is a prime example of how the immersive capabilities of virtual reality tech can enhance our gaming experience. And though it has its flaws, the great definitely outweighs the slightly annoying. And with zero game-breaking bugs or latency issues to report, I will give you my blessing to add this to your collection. Thank you so much for watching my review of Into the Radius. If you have any other questions or want to suggest another game that I should take a look at, feel free to let me know in the comments section down below. I have a few ideas for games I want to review, and I have a lot of Quest titles in my collection that desperately need my attention. If you're interested in game design, VR development, or asset creation, take a look at some of my tutorials. I like to think I take a straightforward approach, and I can get you making your own VR games in no time at all.